Welcome to another episode of Growing Guelph. As always, I'm the creator and host of Growing Guelph, Jordan Sloggett. Today's episode is more than just a part 2, it's basically a sequel. Back in November of 2024, Steph Clarke from the Guelph Tool Library joined me for episode 3 of this podcast, recorded over Zoom. Now we're at episode 40, recording in person at the Guelph Tool Library location in the Quebec Street Mall, right in downtown Guelph. In this conversation, we talk about how the space and the mission of the Tool Library have grown, the real community impact that they're seeing, what's coming next, from Repair Cafés and Seedy Saturday with Yorklands to the Brush Battle fundraiser and the free-to-read book sale. I really enjoyed this second conversation with one of my most absolute favorite Guelph organizations, so without further delay, here's my conversation with Steph Clarke, the Community Engagement Manager with the Guelph Tool Library. And is that close enough to you? You can't really speak too close.
Am I close enough to it?
Yeah.
Is the question.
I find this microphone's a little more sensitive than that. I wish I had two of the same, which I did when I used to rent the podcast kit from here, which I totally could have just taken out and I just used for this, but whatever. I've got this set up as is now. So.
I thought it was kind of cool that it's like you started this with a tool library tool and now you've like grown to the point where you have your own equipment.
Yeah, I and again, my system is fairly cobbled together still. It's one of those like, at some point I'll invest more and get like a better tool here and there, but for what my purposes, it works. As you can see, I've got my mobile setup, which I bring in a Costco bag, which is fun, and it's one of those like, again, should I get like a dedicated duffel bag or like, oh, this works,
like
everything fits.
You could come and make a thing on the Cricut.
Oh, I should do that sometime.
We've got a bunch of heat transfer vinyl.
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah. So
you, is it the same thing? Because I made those using the rented.
Use the button maker.
Yeah, the button maker. Is the Cricut, like, is it the same thing where you have the vinyl that you can buy when you rent it here?
We haven't put together kits yet, but we're working on it because we just got this huge donation of heat transfer vinyl.
Oh, cool.
Like $1,500 worth of heat transfer vinyl.
Oh, wow. The one time I rented the button maker, it just came with a bunch of buttons.
Somebody left
and it
from
was
there.
like, oh, this is a bonus.
Because sometimes people will buy like 100 and then they won't use them, so they'll just give them back. If you have like a transparent PNG file, like something with no background, you could cut it out on the Cricut. It'd be a pain to weed because there's a lot of little details, but...
Yeah, that's cool. I could always do like a second version of it that may be more of an outline or something
like a silhouette kind of thing.
At some point, I was meaning to update my logo. Like my wife, who's an artist, helped me put it together. And then it was one of those where I was like, I need you to help me do this. And then she did it. And then I just ran with it. And she was like, oh, if I had known you were going to use that, I would have. And I was like, I told you that I was going to use that.
Like this was first draft.
Yeah, I mean, it was like first draft of like a first real draft. Yeah. But then I was like, whatever. I can't keep delaying getting going because you need a logo to like put on all your social media pages. And like, it's silly, those sorts of things that
and
can
like
a
rebrand is tough.
Yeah, that's why it would probably be an evolution, not like a full rebrand.
100th episode rebrand. I don't know how many episodes you're at.
I am nearing 50.
Okay.
50, 42?
Maybe it's a 50
this is 42. This is the 42nd. So, yeah, I guess I could do a 50th rebrand. But I might keep some of this because we're kind of just in the mid-talking. But today on the podcast, I'm joined by Steph Clarke. Steph, you're the Community Engagement Manager here at the Tool Library. This is our second time talking. The first time we talked, do you remember what your title was then?
I think I was either the Communications Coordinator or the Program Coordinator.
Well, that's exciting that your role here is evolving and changing. The whole library is kind of evolving and changing, which is partly what we're here to talk about. But thanks for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the first time we did this, it was over Zoom, which I did some of the earlier episodes on. This time we are here in person at the Tool Library. We're at a very old, several of these old wooden tables that have been put together that look like a lot of work has been done. Like physical things have been made on these tables, and I'm facing a bunch of the bikes that are hanging on the wall, and we're kind of like behind me is all the racks of, I want to say tools, but all of the racks of items of the library, tools, crafting supplies, everything under the sun here.
It's a pretty extensive inventory. It's hard to define. Sometimes people will ask, like, well, what do you have at the tool library? Or I don't need tools. Like, I have a garage. And it's like, but do you have a pressure cooker and a vinyl cutter and a podcasting kit?
It's tough. Like, I just did a couple episodes with the city library. We did 3 episodes with the, City of Guelph official library. And I know you guys have some partnerships with them. They have their Library of Things program, which, they have a couple tool-related things, but they're more focused on different sort of items, and they have nowhere near the collection that the tool library has. Yeah, we were kind of talking about rebranding and that. Has it ever come up in conversations of the tool library of like, well, should we change the name, or is it like you kind of have to? It's hard, right? You have that built up reputation and branding, and
with there being a library of things at our public library, and also being the Kitchener-Waterloo has a library of things, we thought like sticking to the roots of GTL, Guelph Tool Library, and redefining what people associate with being a tool. Like anything that we use to get something done, essentially, is a tool.
Yes.
And this allows us to create a bit of a perception of what we are as an inn. A library of things is a little ambiguous. So being able to say it's tools, but tools aren't limited to hammers and drills and saws.
The stick that the monkey uses to fish ants out of a hole in a tree is a tool when it's being used that way. But so are like crafting supplies and mugs and chairs and tables and basically any physical object, right?
Exactly. And it's how we ended up with the crow as our logo, because they also use tools. And they use them to solve puzzles, they use them to have fun, but they also use them to get things done in their day-to-day lives.
That's fun. I do remember from some of my biology days, where that's my education background, but corvids, which are crows fall into that family, I think they are, or group, are some of the most intelligent birds, and like their ability to, like, not only can they recognize faces, they remember faces.
They'll bring you treasures.
They bring you treasure. My wife tried to befriend some local crows outside of our house. Like, we were leaving them peanuts and stuff, just because we've seen on TikTok that people who befriend crows can benefit from the relationship. I don't think we were fully successful on that, but at least we probably, did some well-meaning inroads into the crow community, so we didn't make enemies of them, which is good. Back to the tool library. When you think back to our first Zoom conversation, which was over a year ago now, do you know what feels most different about the tool library today?
I mean, our physical space being different, that was back when we were still down the hall in a much smaller unit.
Yeah, you're still here at the Quebec Street Mall downtown, but you've moved into a larger space.
And that space has allowed us so much more flexibility in how we operate our programs. The main thing is Free Hub no longer has to pack up into a spare bathroom at the end of every shift.
Anytime you're not using a bathroom as storage is a good one, is an improvement, right?
It's ideal. So they were packing up bicycles, bike stands, all of their tools into this tiny little space that was also housing a lot of other storage 3 days a week. And now they have this really great space that has its own entrance, has its own storefront, allows them to operate semi-independently within the tool library, but still be part of our home and part of our whole culture.
It's cool. I find the Quebec Street Mall in general is a very unique space in that there's, like, it's a lively mall. There's a lot of cool things here. And it seems like, just sort of off the top of my head here, but it seems like the storefronts here are kind of moving into a more of a, like, it's a community space as opposed to traditional retail. Like, I mean, there is a pharmacy here, but like the Dragon, which just expanded their space as well, it is a traditional, like, comic book store and, like, I guess you call it, like, nerdy hobby store, but they also host all kinds of like game night and people who are into think it's called 40K or Warhammer 40K or Magic the Gathering, the card game. Like it's kind of a real community hub in that way.
It's a really social, really alive space, and they're great neighbors too.
Which is also fitting because this is also the home of the Guelph Storm, so it's also like a place where people come, when they're playing to come to a sports game, and that must be kind of good for the tool library because it brings like traffic directly right by your doors, and it probably gets a lot of people going like, oh, the tool library, what's that?
Yeah, definitely on a Saturday afternoon or a Wednesday night when there's a game, we get people popping in and they go, what is this place? Or they say things like, nobody ever comes to this mall. And I think, well, you're here. I'm here. People are coming. Tell your friends. But it sparks a lot of curiosity because it looks kind of like a thrift store meets a hardware store. And then people come in and they find out that it's this whole system of borrowing and sharing and learning and reducing your waste. And it's a really great thing to have that kind of public-facing storefront that brings in new people.
Yeah, and your new artwork that maybe you can give a shout out to some of the artists. I know I was walking by the one day that some of them were being painted, and it was really cool to see. And there's just such a fun, like they bring so much life to the outside space where just walking by, it gives such a good impression of like what the space is, what's the vibe of the place, and like what it's all about.
Yeah, one of our volunteers, B, they're an artist by trade, and we approached them about, how would you feel about doing a mural that like really literally paints a picture of what the tool library is like. And so we had a couple of brainstorming meetings where we got all of our different projects and programs involved so that they could feel like the things that they represent were being represented on this huge mural that goes across all of our windows, as well as a bunch of sort of buzzwords that help convey what this space is out to accomplish. And some of those things are share, mend, play, make, collaborate, learn, repair, imagine. And they're all these sort of open-ended words that allow you to discover what is inside of our space.
And I think it does a good job of representing like what the tool library means to like people like myself who's a member here, where it's more than just getting things done or solving problems. Like that's a huge component of it. Like as someone who has things to like solve around the house here and there, the idea of like, oh, I'll be able to tackle a project and not break the bank. I'll be able to explore like DIY things around the house and solve problems. That's appealing, but it's also like the exploratory element of like, I can come here and I can rent crafting supplies. I can rent, I talked about some of this on the first episode, so I won't repeat myself too much, but like I rented the button maker a couple times to make GrowingGuelph buttons that I've given out to guests. We had kind of talked about the fact that I should make use of the Cricut machine and get some like vinyl stickers printed, and like beyond just like the crafting tools, there's also kitchen supplies. Like there's a pasta maker. I made homemade pasta before. A couple weeks ago, I rented the pressure cooker for the first time, and
what did you end up pressure cooking?
What was it? It was like a pork roast that I had cooked half of it in the oven, and then the other half I did I found some kind of pressure cooker meal, but being able to do that like in just a few hours, and that was really cool. And I have a small kitchen, so I like kitchen tools, but I don't have the space to store more ones, and I might only end up using a pressure cooker a few times a year. And when you're a tool library member, you get all the benefits of like getting to you have to plan ahead a little bit, but it's really not that much of a hassle to like set items aside to like use your website to find what's available, to come in and get them and make use of them. And then I get to bring the pressure cooker back here, and I don't have to store that for the whole year, and I didn't have to pay for it in the first place other than my $70 member fee. Is it still 70?
Yeah, it's still 70 plus HST. There's a small service fee if you're paying by card, so it works out to somewhere between $79 and $81 when all is said and done. But it's still, we've tried really hard to maintain the affordability of the membership by not raising our member prices for, I think it's been 2+ years since we've had an increase. One thing that we've done to sort of stay afloat a bit more is we have added some per tool or per day fees.
Yeah, and those are all like very reasonable in my opinion, because those are more like if you're renting a something with like a saw or like a blade, I should say, where that blade has to be replaced and it gets worn out. There's like a couple dollars or $1 per day in some cases. And that feels entirely reasonable because I have rented saws from the tool library and it is still the more affordable option versus renting those same tools from other tool rental options from like Home Depot or wherever.
Especially for the types of tools that most people need for their projects. Like a lot of people aren't going to need like this big industrial crosscut saw. They're going to need like a small hand circular saw or like a 7-inch blade miter saw or something like that. And those kinds of things aren't really rentable anywhere else. And they have a pretty steep barrier to entry if you were to just buy them to try to accomplish one or two projects.
You'd have to just either have the cash on hand to explore those sorts of things, or you'd have to be buying it for like a business usage, right? I'm curious to know, do you know offhand, are there people who are like handy people who in some way make part of their living on some of the tools they rent here?
So our theory or our guideline is that the tools are for personal use. Businesses are welcome to become tool library members as long as the tools that they are using are not supporting the core function of their business.
Gotcha.
So like a landscaper couldn't borrow our landscaping and gardening tools, but they could borrow like our tables and chairs to have a company barbecue.
That's fair. So if it's like which is a big bonus for companies that want to do like events and things like that, because like those event tools are great to have. And I said this in the first episode, but I made use of the podcast kit a number of times when I was first starting out with this podcast, because I just wanted to try out some different options and microphones and tools, and having access to that was really cool. And it kind of, I learned a lot, which is true of a lot of like hobbies and that, where it can be hard to know what you need right off the bat. Like, do you need the most expensive thing? Like, I think Adam Savage of Mythbusters, his advice for buying tools was always, if you need a tool, buy the very cheapest version of it to start with, because you'll either learn a few things. You'll learn either that the cheapest version of it gets the job done and that's all you'll ever need, or in using the cheap version of it, you'll use it until it breaks, and in doing so, you'll learn what components of it you'll need for the better version, like to how you should invest your money and your time to buy the forever version of it. Or you'll find that you just don't use that tool and it's not actually needed. That said, I have found for the most part that the tool library version of a lot of the tools aren't the cheap version. Like you guys, you tend to have the buy it for life version of things.
Yeah, we like to have sort of mid-range home usage level tools. And we do make some choices, like all of our battery-powered tools are Ryobi, so that all the batteries and chargers are compatible. Not carrying tools where we know we won't be able to get replacement parts or replacement blades, and finding another home for those that's more suitable than as a piece of tool library inventory.
Right. We kind of talked a little bit about this around the look and feel of the new space here, but for someone who's never been here, can you kind of walk them through what it's like walking into the tool library in person, and maybe what are some like misconceptions that people have about what it is that you do here?
A lot of people definitely think we're a store or a thrift store or a pawn shop when they first walk in, because it does kind of look that way. We have a very ragtag looking inventory, but you're always greeted by two very helpful and very friendly volunteers that will explain to you what the tool library is, how it works, and how you can either become involved or become a member. But when you walk in, you are confronted with an inventory of 1,500 different items. Our inventory manager, Brian, has done an excellent job of categorizing and organizing tools so that in theory things are very easy to find. And our inventory system has like a great search function that if you're looking for a specific thing, we can always just plug it in and see where it is.
Yeah, I found using the online inventory, like when you're a member, it's just like a book library where you can log in and you can search for items, but there's also a bunch of different categorizations where you can either look through the categories based off of the category of type of tool or the category of where you'd be using that. So depending on which system you're using, for example, like if you flip to where you might be using it, there's like a camping and outdoor section where it'll include all the types of things that you might want for camping and outdoors, like including like some games and including like the axe that I've rented several times to chop wood while camping, or all those fun things. Like there's coolers, but then, yeah, if you flip to the other side, it'll kind of categorize it more by object. And it's always fun to browse it and see what's new and what's going on.
And it's always kind of fun from our side when somebody comes in and says the name of a tool that I've maybe never heard of before. And then I search it and it's in our system. It's been here the whole time. I think the first time somebody asked me for a wire fish tape, I had no idea what that was.
Is that like the kind of tape like an electrician would use inside of a wall kind of thing where you fish it through and then you...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. At the time I was like, I know those words individually. I do not know what they mean when they're put together, but now I know where they are. I know what shelf they're on.
It does almost sound like a tool you might use like while, fishing, actual fish. So you guys are coming up on a milestone of 900 active members, I understand. Is that right? What does that number mean to you? And what do you think is driving that growth?
That number has been something that's been on my mind for a long time. As a longtime staff member of the tool library, when I came aboard, we were at 150 cumulative members.
Wow.
And that was only like maybe 110 active members at that time. That was only a year and a half into things for the tool library, but we've always had a dream of getting to 1,000. We were amazed when we got to 500. So being this close to 900, we're at 875 right now. It's just felt like there's 900 people who are using this service on a regular enough basis to be active members. And most of those people are part of a household or a couple. So really it's like 1,800 or more that are benefiting from this service.
Yeah, especially if some of them are like teachers, or like if they're a camp counselor or like a group or something, like the number of people that could be impacted by. I mean, I've, rented items for parties and things like that. So, there's been people who've got to benefit from my membership alone.
Your pumpkin carving.
Yes, we talked about that in the last thing. I think I caused some interesting discussion here because I rented a bunch of drywall knives as well as like tables. Yeah. And there was like, what are these drywall? I think I might have even rented the popcorn machine at the time.
We really wondered what was going on.
And I said this, like, I don't know if like, I'm sure drywallers wouldn't like you using their drywall knives for pumpkin carving, like maybe, but the knives, I don't think I harm the knives at all. I mean, I'm using them on pumpkins, and they're made. Nice. Yeah, you wash them, they clean them, they're fine. But if you want a good rough knife to especially to carve like some of the more coarse cuts of a jack-o'-lantern, drywall knives work really well. And I didn't have quite enough pumpkin carving kits myself, and I was having a pumpkin carving party with some friends a couple years ago, so I got everything I needed here from the tool library, which was awesome. I think we also even had the hot chocolate. What do you call it? The large canister?
Yeah, the big like Cambro dispenser.
Yeah. So between that and the popcorn maker, and I forget if I also rented the speaker too, but I know we had some tables and maybe even, we didn't end up using it, but we had like the pop-up cover.
The canopies.
Yeah, which is like a backup in case it was going to rain that day. If you're like, you live in an apartment and you don't have all the supplies to have like host a bunch of people, you can get everything you need to have a very large gathering here at the tool library. You can get utensils, cooking supplies, plates, cups, mugs. Again, all of those different cooking things. And then like the fun things on top. So if you want speakers for the party, if you want
cotton candy.
I had rented an ice machine the one time because, parties use ice. And I'm probably just scratching the surface of like that doesn't include all the different game and activity type things that you can do.
Giant Jenga.
We're
working on Giant Connect 4. We're hoping to add that to inventory within the next month or so.
It feels like, I don't know if like wedding planners in the city know about the tool library or if enough of them do, but like...
So the issue with weddings is that you can only reserve your tools 2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
We're great for things like your bridal shower, your baby shower, your birthday party, retirement parties, anniversary parties. Those are the perfect things to get at the tool library. We have had at least 2 tool library weddings that I know of.
I will say, if you're flexible, like if you want some games but you don't really care the exact games, and like you're going to be able to get some things ahead of time. But yeah, you're right, it might be tricky to count on everything if you need all the cups and all the whatever.
We can definitely help with cutting down on costs of some of those fun things.
Yeah.
Especially now, like we have 2 cotton candy machines. We have 2 popcorn machines. We have a couple
cotton candy machines require a special ingredient other than just sugar? Or is it sugar and dye?
Pretty much sugar and heat.
That's
what does it. And the spinning, that is what turns it into
That's the magic that turns the granulated sugar into the fluff of...
Yes.
That's cool.
Actively discourage using other types of candy. It turns into what we call candy bacon, which is the death of most cotton candy machines.
Oh, no. So as part of the expansion, you've expanded into this new space, but you're also doing an expansion that you kind of called it like an expansion that's not changing the footprint. And I understand that you're doing some changing of the shelving. How does that help move from about the 1,500 items towards like a possibility of 2,000? Like what's that going to look like?
So right now we have these kind of mismatched shelves that they fit perfectly into our old space, and we made them work in this new space. But they're completely full, and we've got some kind of like spots where there's a lot of unused aspects of our floor plan. So we're shifting some of our bigger shelves around, and then we're making essentially some back-to-back shelving that's going to add a whole extra row for things like our kitchen and party supplies, as well as things like our home renovation supplies. So things like for plumbing or for... other aspects of like painting and construction.
That's very fun. Yeah, that is like it's fun to browse the shelves of the tool library, but because it's not a commercial store, so things, you kind of realize when you're browsing it how much when you're browsing a store you rely on like the box of the item to fully communicate what the item does, as opposed to if it's stored very neatly in like a plastic box, but it does take a little bit of careful looking to understand like, okay, this is a Dremel or this is a, lino cut tool or something like that.
Yeah, we store a lot of things in those like little sort of Rubbermaid totes, and they're great for keeping everything organized because a lot of stuff comes with tiny accessories and parts and pieces. But doesn't come with its original box. 90% of our inventory is donated. That's usually one of the ways you can tell whether something was donated or something was purchased, is if it's in its original box in good condition, we probably bought it. If it's in a ragtag little Rubbermaid, it's probably donated. It's probably lived a pretty good life.
It's, I guess you must benefit from the fact that in our current digital era, manuals of tools are fairly easy to find online, as opposed to like if you were running the tool library in like the 80s or the 90s, it would have been a lot of like, okay, how do we source this manual for this, ice maker from the 90s that still works great, but like you're trying to figure out how to make it work. Like nowadays, a lot of companies and other like third-party websites will compile PDFs online that you can print out, right?
Yes, our best friend is manualslib.com.
Always bless those people who like dedicate. I mean, just like the volunteers who dedicate to sometimes here, right? Like for those people, their special interest is organizing manuals, cataloging manuals, and no doubt we've all benefited from that.
Yeah, we can find pretty much anything we need for a manual online, and then we can also just link it as a PDF in the item description. We don't have to worry about printing and keeping track of physical copies. And you could say like, oh, I didn't bring the manual. Oh, don't worry. You can find it online. We have it. Here's a link. And we can also link things like YouTube videos for how to use certain tools, especially if they are things like the cotton candy machine or the button maker that you're probably only going to use once. You're not really going to develop a knack for knowing exactly how it works. So we always try to make sure that those tricky tools have some additional instructions attached to the item description.
I know I've benefited from, I think the button maker in particular, it like not only has the instructions, but there's like additional written things that, I don't know if it's the staff here or people who've rented it have like kind of added in. So, you get those like additional hints or clarifications of things, which makes it even like better than having like the original manual. You get like the original manual with notes.
You get the director's cut of the manual.
Exactly. Are there any kinds of like new tools or categories that you're most excited to add as you continue to grow the inventory? And how do you decide like what to bring in or what to petition from members for donations?
So we always have like a very open wish list. Anybody at any time can say, hey, have you considered adding blank? And we'll put it on our wish list. We'll see how many people request that tool and then kind of go from there. When we do our big shop, usually around the beginning of the year, when we've got a little bit of money to spend on tools. And we also always look to what other tool libraries are doing. There's a huge network of tool libraries online on social media. We can be like, oh, they added this at the Buffalo Tool Library. Like, we should look into getting something like that.
Is there ever like a online conference or meetings or like, do the different tool libraries ever kind of get together and talk?
Pre-COVID, there was a really big conference that brought together all the tool libraries. I think it was organized by the Toronto Tool Library. It was right before I came on board. I think I missed it by like 2 or 3 months. We've always wanted to plan another one, but we are pretty active online in keeping in touch with each other. Just a few weeks ago, we had the Halifax Tool Library come and visit us.
That's fun.
I'm always planning to get down to the Buffalo Tool Library, especially because of their proximity to Trader Joe's. And I've been to visit the Vancouver and Victoria Tool Libraries. And
cool.
I'm going out west again, so I'm hoping to visit Edmonton.
It must be kind of endlessly fascinating to get like the behind the scenes of like, oh, this is how you guys organize this, or this is how, like, is there anything that's like really surprised you that you've seen in other tool libraries that you like hope that we could do here one day? Or
I'm interested in seeing how other tool libraries approach the like member and behind the scenes dynamic. Some tool libraries, their inventory is strictly on a reservation system, so you don't get that chance to come in and browse around. You just pick it up at a front desk. And then some tool libraries are much more like ours with like everything laid out on the shelves. You get to explore around. Some tool libraries are in the basement of another business, and
right.
I think we're the only one that's in a mall, which is kind of unique.
Yeah, that's cool. It also, as we talked about before, it's kind of spurs those conversations of like, what is that person doing carrying XYZ out of the mall? Like,
definitely like the big like scythes and
yes.
like branch loppers. Somebody walking through a very public downtown.
Yeah,
it's like, where's that omen going?
I know I've talked about this before, but you kind of learn, like if you're carrying a wood splitting axe to the mall, like what's the least threatening way that I, as like a man, can hold this axe to communicate that like I'm using this for tool purposes. I am not wielding this axe through them all right now.
You're just transporting it.
Yes.
There's a big difference between transporting and wielding.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's like where you're holding it, how you're holding it, like
your overall demeanor,
your smile, but not too much of a smile, like the appropriate level of smiliness of holding an axe. You know, this is a kind of an aside, but I've always kind of been curious the nature of the membership here. Like, there's no membership card, there's no membership like number, and in the back of my head I've always kind of wondered like, oh, is this just like a system that will eventually get more complex, and at the moment it's kind of operating under a friendly system because, and like maybe I'll cut this from the episode, but like technically if someone knows my name and they know I have a membership, they could show up and say, I'm so and so, give me that. And the volunteer, like, I don't think my photo is saved in a file or anything. So there's a little bit of trust and things like that like I would suspect, if those sorts of events ever happened, would be like the cause of like, okay, we're gonna have to go to a PIN system, or there's a password, or there's something.
Yeah, so you do technically have a member number.
Okay.
But
like a database number.
It
in the
hardly
back?
ever comes up. We did have membership cards for like the first couple hundred members, and then people would forget them, or they'd get damaged because they were just like paper cards.
Why don't you just make an app? Isn't that easy these days?
The number of times people have said, just make an app for the tool library. But we have put in a couple of different security features, especially since we last talked. Members are now required to have a credit card on file. If the member doesn't have a credit card, they do have to have a reference on file. We have to do things like verify phone numbers and email addresses. And we do also have a function to turn on a warning to ask for ID. So if we do suspect that a membership was being misused, we can always turn on that feature. The number of incidents we've had out of the like 2,000 cumulative users is like less than 5 times that a membership's been used.
That doesn't surprise me. Like, I mean, everyone here, like the kind of people who are making use of the tool library and the kind of people who volunteer and work here, like there's very little malicious intent or thought here.
Typically people who buy into the concept of a tool library, they're buying into a value set that's very community minded, and like they recognize this is a place for sharing. It's not a place for like trying to, you know, pull one over on somebody. They're very aware of what they're becoming a part of.
Yeah. And like those numbers, on the one hand, it's amazing that, you know, you're getting to that nearly 900 active members, but it's like a drop in the bucket when you look at the population of Guelph, right? Like, I don't know how many households Guelph has. The population's what, like 120, 130?
It's around 150,000 now. Yeah, we've had a big boom in our population.
So if we assume like 2-3 members, like on average household, like it's still probably something like less than 1% of households. When like, I can't imagine a household that wouldn't be able to make use of the tool library. Like, you'd have to be such a shut-in who never does anything and never like wants to do anything to not. And even if then you are like, maybe the tool library could be your, you know, invitation or spurring you to start trying new things in your life because there's the options here for it.
And we wish that we could sustain everybody from Guelph. Like,
yeah, that must kind of scare you if you're like, oh, if it was so popular that 50% of Guelph households signed up, it would be like, that would actually be kind of a problem for me as a member because like, how am I going to ever get anything if there's that much of a wait list? But... And
it is one of the reasons that we are aiming to increase our inventory to 2,000 items. Like, we know that we'll better take care of 900 members if we have 2,000 items.
Yeah.
And the goal is always to be increasing our inventory in line with how many members that we have. And ideally, we would grow to the size where we could sustain, you know, 3,000, 4,000 people at a time. we've even talked in the past about like, what if we had satellite locations? But being a volunteer run organization that is run essentially by 1.5 paid staff members and by an incredible team of volunteers who give us so much of their time and energy and support, we wouldn't be able to sustain to the size of like what Home Depot or Canadian Tire can give a community in any given day.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's so much more expensive to go to a hardware store.
Yeah,
too,
you're paying there's a lot of overhead and things like that. I mean, well, kudos to everyone who does volunteer their time here. And I know it's not just the physical operation of this, like standard physical operation of the tool library, but you also do a wide number of different events and things like that, which I know we can get into because you have a number of events coming up this spring. Do you want to talk about some of those now?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I know the first one you have on your radar, which I believe will be, I hate making this promise and then the episode comes out late, but I believe this will still be in the future if you're listening to this early when this episode comes out. I mean, it's a podcast, so you could be listening to it 10 years from now, but on March 7th of 2026, you have the Repair Café at the Three Willows United Church from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
So a Repair Cafe is something where you can bring almost any broken item from around your house and someone can try to fix it for you. Our theory with the Repair Cafe is it's already broken, so let's give it a try to try and fix it. People bring clothing, they bring lamps, they bring electronics. We have somebody now who can do computers. We often have somebody who can do jewelry. I fixed a pair of boots at the last one because I happened to have shoe glue like in my bag.
Don't you normally, and I know this because I had a bottle of shoe glue, but that's normally something you have to like keep in the freezer.
Yeah, it needs like a cool, dry place.
Okay.
But I had brought it home from my parents' house to fix my own shoes. It was still in my bag, and somebody had a pair of boots that had split at the seam, and I was able to get them back together. I was fixing a cheese slicer. I wasn't even there as a fixer. I was just there to help out and hang out, and I ended up fixing 2 things.
I feel like for the volunteers, that must be a very satisfying, like for a certain particular type of person, it certainly scratches like an itch to just solve those little problems.
Yes, it's like having a Rubik's Cube that changes every day.
I had a great summer job. Like my second ever job was at the Great Wolf Lodge in Niagara Falls, and I worked at the arcade, and it was very satisfying to go around and solve people's problems with the machines at an arcade, because like 99 times out of 100 the problem is the tokens, like they shove too many tokens in and the tokens are like jammed up in the token mechanism. But it gives you this, like, you get to swoop in, use your special key to open the machine up, and then like you don't need anything special. You're just like, you take a pair of keys or something and like take the tokens out of it. But there's something like really satisfying about clearing out like a mechanical process like that. And then you get to close it up, give the person a handful of tokens and then fix the machine. And it's just like, it's one of those like very easy to solve, but you get a lot of dopamine hits of getting to do that.
And a lot of times the things that come in, it's either something with preventative maintenance, like descaling your kettle or your coffee maker, or it's a small piece of wiring that's disconnected in something that's motorized. And then sometimes it's as simple as like changing the fuse on a light bulb or a lamp. And we fix about 70% of what gets brought to us. It's usually around 60 or 70 people that come to each Repair Cafe. We had one just at the end of January, and everyone who was there was saying everyone was so friendly, everyone was so helpful. They really wanted to be able to fix this thing for me. And that environment, it's so warm, it's so inviting, and it's for everybody. There's no cost to come to a Repair Cafe. So even if you just have something small that needs to get like glued back together, you get to come and be part of this vibe of fixing.
And I'm sure you also get to, like, if you're someone who you have the desire to fix something, but you're not quite sure how to do it, and like the YouTube tutorials or whatever aren't helping, getting to like talk to someone. I'm sure the fixers, is that what you call them?
Yes, we call them fixers.
The fixers, they probably really relish the opportunity to sort of teach or impart some of that knowledge. So like maybe that person won't have to come into the Repair Cafe again, but they'll probably tell their friends who will like want to come into the Repair Cafe.
Exactly. They love to explain how things work, how things get taken apart, and how they get put back together. They get the chance to teach people about like the safety screws that are put into items to prevent you from being able to open them.
Yeah.
We have the magical secret screwdrivers that know how to open a 7-pointed star.
Some of the, I know some gaming companies are infamous for, like Nintendo in particular. There's like, they have their own screw mechanism. Same kind of thing, right? It's just like a weird screwdriver that you need to get into it because they don't necessarily want you to tinker with their...
Exactly. And then that gets to open up the conversation about like forced obsolescence and the right to repair movement. And somebody who was maybe just there to get their alarm clock fixed ends up realizing like they've taken part in this act of defiance and rebellion.
Yeah, it's like fighting against those... well, I shouldn't say fighting against. It's fighting for the environmentally friendly idea that like... we already have a lot of things in the world, and those things, like, a lot of times when they break, they're not fundamentally broken. It's, like you said, it's a tiny wire, it's a little bit of plastic, it's something small, and being able to save something from going to the landfill when it could have, like, decades left of life left in it, like, that's a very rewarding thing to do.
And something we also find out about at Repair Cafés is if something was just user error and they didn't know that they were using this item wrong.
It's probably common in some of the computer error fixings.
Computers, phones, sewing machines. My favorite thing is somebody saying, this sewing machine doesn't work. And it's just like their bobbin winder was engaged. And that's why the needle wasn't going up and down. I'm a sewer. I run a lot of our sewing related programs. So that's always a favorite thing for me is to just be like, there was one little thing, this one little button that needed to be pushed, and now it's back to normal, and you can keep using it and keep enjoying it.
Does the Repair Cafe also include, because I know I've seen other events that are maybe more clothing related, where there's like mending and stitching?
Yes. So you can bring clothing to a Repair Cafe. There's always like 2 or 3 people who are sewing, either hand sewing or machine sewing. At this past one, like they fixed zippers, they fixed purses, they fixed a ton of stuff. They were busy the whole time. But we also run a program called Stitch Together, which is the community mending project. And that's something that we run twice a month at the Tool Library. It's typically the 2nd and 4th Monday of the month. So the next one's coming up would be like March 9th from 6 to 8, and then March 23rd from 12 to 2. It happens here at the Tool Library at these same lovely lab tables that we're sitting at today. And we have sewing machines, we have tons of notions and supplies, and you can come in and work on sewing or garment repair on your own, but there's also always like 2 or 3 volunteers to assist with that process if you're lacking some confidence or you don't have the skills to do it yourself.
That's really fun. There was, I don't know the exact date, it was this past summer, there was a fashion show here at the Quebec Street Mall, and I believe some people took part. There were several different groups that were taking part in this fashion show. I'm aware of this because my wife works at a bridal store here at the mall, and they were taking part in the fashion show. But sorry, what was it called? Like the
Stitch Together.
Stitch Together. They had some people who were showing off some of the pieces that they had fixed and repaired in the fashion show, which was, I mean, it was really just one of those like things where you're like, oh, this is why. Like, this is the Guelph element of this fashion show. Like, everything that is like the stereotypical like crunchy hippie vibes of Guelph of like, oh, this like family is just showing off like their items of clothing that they saved from going to the landfill in like a fun tongue-in-cheek kind of like fashion way. But like, it's true. We talk about saving things from landfill. Like, our clothing, there's so many times where there's like life left in it, but like a zipper's broken, so you want to like the sweater's no longer as functional, but like
Exactly. I was one of the models in that fashion show.
I hope that's fun.
And I had this really cool pair of jeans that like the hems had come down on them. They had a bunch of holes. And so
Were they like they weren't bought that way? Like
no,
what's
it
that
was
called when you buy things and they're made
like intentionally worn in.
Yeah, I forget the name for that fashion choice, but for it, I don't know if it's as big now, but there was a time during the 2000s where faded and like purposely ripped clothing was...
Many times my mom said, I'm not paying to buy you ripped jeans. But, you know, now we know how to make them sort of a fashion statement with visible mending. And so these jeans had all this really cool visible mending. I had a shirt that I had put a pocket on because there was a hole in it, and then it became kind of a fun fashion statement. I had a jean jacket that I put some patches made from vintage Mickey Mouse bed sheets. And, you know, other folks who participated in that, one had a jacket that ended up with a big bleach stain. And so she used these hexagon pieces of fabric to sort of patchwork quilts over it, and other really cool elements like that, that being able to show the, you know, 50, 75, 100 people that are at that fashion show, this is something that you could do too. And you can do it here. And there's people that'll help you through that process. They might not have ever thought, oh, that pile of stuff that I just keep meaning to turn into rags can become clothing again.
And I think it does speak to a lot of people's desires to, and maybe even like selfishly, you get like a fun story to tell about your clothing, and it you get to show off some of your ingenuity, your resourcefulness. Like, you know, I think people often already they like being able to say like, oh yeah, you like this jacket, like I thrifted it, because like you know, it sort of shows that you're resourceful or cool or whatever the reason is. But like, how much cooler is it to be like, oh, look, I like thrifted this jacket. It was super cheap because it had this burn mark in it, and then I repaired the burn mark with this patch or something like that. Like, that's like the ultimate hipster kind of like.
Exactly.
Not only is it thrifted, it's like repaired on my own. Later in March, on March 28th, you're collaborating with Yorklands Green Hub for Seedy Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. What's Seedy Saturday?
So Seedy Saturday is part of like a global movement that every spring organizations and communities can host these big seed swaps and seed sales. We've been a part of it in one form or another for the last 10 years or so, pretty much since the Tool Library began. It used to be run by an organization called Transition Guelph, but they kind of wound down their operations about 4 years ago, and we took it over. And then last year, Yorklands was like, hey, we want to do one too, like let's team up. So this is actually our second year working together, but this year we're able to do a lot more collaborating on things like the workshops, the programs, the vendors. So basically people can come get seeds from the seed swap. They can learn about, you know, native plants, seed starting. There's going to be some fun, like messy play areas for kids and families. And then there'll also be some more formal workshops as well. And those will take place in the Guelph Arts Council space that just opened up in Old Quebec Street.
Oh, cool. I know I've made use of some of the like gardening related tools at the Tool Library. You have like a little seed, like if you're doing seed starter pots, there's like a pot
paper
pot maker that you can use like newspaper to make pots out of. You have like heating mats that are useful for when you're starting seeds.
Got the soil block makers.
Yes.
There's tons of stuff in our inventory for, you know, big or small gardens.
Yeah. We have wheelbarrows. There's like shovels, like weeding tools and things like that.
And then all of that ties into our seed library, which is an inventory of like 20,000 plus packets of seeds that are available free or by donation. Donations are more than welcome. But last summer we were able to give away over 14,000 packets of those seeds because we've developed another collaboration with the Guelph Public Library to have those available in each of their branches.
That's cool. And as a side bonus, these seeds are all seeds that have been collected from plants from like amateur gardeners and that here in the city.
A lot of them have.
Most of them, at
Yeah.
least, like if not in the city, probably nearby. So you're almost like guaranteeing the fact that you're getting plants that are well suited for here, which you can't necessarily guarantee if you're buying seeds at like buying different seeds at like a greenhouse. They will have the details of like what hardiness zones and places they can be grown, but like every place is going to be different, and you just never know how something's going to react in like the situ of like where you plant it.
For sure.
Here in Guelph versus of like the greenhouse it was adapted to or anything like that, right?
And there are some seeds that just don't save well because they cross-pollinate too easily. So a lot of those seeds we do end up purchasing commercially because we know that they'll be viable. But most of our native plant seeds and a lot of seeds that are easy to save, those have come from the community, and some of them, you know, they get saved and donated again year after year. So it's really robust, really hardy for this particular environment and soil type, which is, again, something that every city should have because it is going to give you better results with your gardening.
I could see a lot of this be like just the repairing, the mending, the gardening. And I think we've sort of seen this already in that, like, there's a lot of economic uncertainty in the world. Tariffs, things like that have got people very mindful of what are the things they can do to reduce their spending, make use of what they have, make use of the space they have to like provide food for themselves, you know, provide food for their neighborhood, all things like that. And I can only see those sorts of skills and hobbies like getting more and more prevalent as people embrace those sorts of things more.
Yeah, just pulling up some figures from last year's impact report. We estimate that the tool library saved the service users almost $600,000.
Oh, wow.
An average of $743 per member based on their borrowing volume and the cost of the items that they're borrowing. Now, obviously, every person who comes in and borrows one item wasn't necessarily going to walk to a hardware store and buy that item. But in order to be able to sort of quantify what we do, we ran these calculations, and we were so pleased to see that number of almost $600,000 in savings to our community.
And like, there's just something so easy to understand and feel good about the idea of like, you pay a membership fee and you get access to all these items, and these items actually get used and they get talked about and they get repaired and they get maintained, versus you buy something, you use it once every 5 years, it spends the rest of your time sitting in your basement. But your neighbor also has to buy their own version of that tool and it sits in their basement.
Exactly.
And it's like, we don't all have to be these little fiefdom, you know, closed wall castles unto ourselves. Like, we live in a city, we live in a community, we can share. You know, you don't have to share everything. You know, you can't rent like pillowcases from here. You can't, there's lots of things you should have your own version of.
Yeah.
But there's lots of things that you don't need your own version of.
For sure.
Like, if you have a few extension cords, but there's something comes up and you're like, I need a 20-foot extension cord for this project. Well, you don't need to go buy that if you just need it once every 5 years. Like,
I think of things like the measuring tapes and measuring wheels. Like, yes, every household should have a regular measuring tape, but you probably don't need a 150-foot long measuring reel. But if you're
had a use of the measuring reel
Exactly.
just recently, and I did not have my own measuring, and I probably won't ever have my own, but like, I got to use that because you guys have it here.
Yeah. So like, next time, you know, you're building a fence or you're needing to measure something in your yard, we have that. And just looking at some of our other things from last year's report, we run recycling programs here. And even though things have changed among our municipal recycling, that a lot more things are now accepted in our blue bin. We do still offer things for recycling of things like cork and eyeglasses and other sort of random things that don't need to be thrown away. They can immediately be rehomed or reused.
And I think this came up before. You guys don't necessarily take batteries here, right? But there is one. Yes, at the Rexall here at the mall, which I still haven't remembered to bring all my batteries here, but they're sitting in my basement still.
And even things like our Free Hub Bike Center, which we haven't had much of a chance to talk about, but they operate here 3 days a week. Last year, they adopted out 89 bikes and they repaired 450. Wow. And when we think about what that means for active transportation in our city, that's a huge impact. That's, folks who didn't have to take a car or get a taxi or even take the bus because they were now able to access the city by active transit.
Like you were able to provide all of that transportation, which is, like transformative for people's lives and their ability to get to work, get to friends, get to the rest of the community. And you're also empowering it through like a healthy way, which is, we could all make use of people-powered transit like that.
For sure.
Which is just great.
And then this winter they had some safety vests made. I think it was at Speed River Bicycle that say I'd rather be in the bike lane, and the sales from the proceeds of those are going to support Free Hub, which I think is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Is Free Hub like a division of the Tool Library?
It's a project of the Tool Library. It runs here on its own kind of volunteer base and structure, but all of our projects, like especially things like the Seed Library, the Grow Garden, the programs like the Community Mending Project, they all operate under our umbrella. And, it's possible that someday they might outgrow us and spread their wings and fly away. But for now, they're here, and they've got probably 10, 12 bikes stacked up on the wall, along with a whole bunch of tools and parts.
That's awesome that the Tool Library can be like an incubator of those sorts of projects. And, even if they were to get so big that they successfully flew the nest and, went elsewhere, that would probably only just kind of create space for like the next project to come in.
And we're always accepting project proposals. So anybody who's a volunteer or a staff member here, or even just somebody who wanted to get involved, we have like a one-pager project proposal that they can fill out, and it'll go to the board, it'll go to our sort of operations committee, and we'll look at, is there a good fit for it here? Do we have the volunteer capacity to be able to support something like this? What's the budget for that project? And sometimes projects like Free Hub, they grow this big, and then sometimes some projects, they might run for a season or two, and then we realize it's not a good fit, or they want to take their project elsewhere. But we're always really open to new ideas.
That's awesome. Other events that you've got, if we want to run through those real quick. On April 11th, you're hosting a brush battle from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. What's a brush battle?
A brush battle is a live art competition. I've participated in a number of these as an artist. My background is in visual arts. I kind of fell into this career, to be honest. I thought I was going to be a painter. So now we were throwing around ideas for what we could do for a big fundraiser. And I suggested this because I knew it was a great way to engage the art community as well as the community that longs to be entertained. And so basically we're taking over the main floor of the mall after hours on April 11th, and we'll have the easels set up. The artists have pretty much all been selected at this point, and they're going to compete head to head to speed paint a 16 by 20 canvas in 25 minutes.
Well, that's exciting. And while it's happening, though, you get to kind of walk around.
Yeah, we want to encourage like the mingling and moving around to see what each artist is doing, because there's an audience vote to move them on to a final round, and in that final round, they're competing for a cash prize.
That's fun. I think if I were an artist, and I'm not an artist, visual artist, but if I were an artist under those circumstances, I think I'd have to like wear earplugs or something, because you want to give people the opportunity to like comment on stuff, but also like you'd have to have real thick skin to like go, I'm not listening. I don't want to be distracted by positive or negative comments.
When I've done it as an artist, you honestly get into such a like flow state that you don't hear what's going on around you. You know you're on this really tight timeline. Like I've done ones where you've as little as 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And for me, like it takes me that long to mix my paint sometimes. But
yeah, you really got to employ some of like the Bob Ross style of speed painting.
I ended up like putting myself to the test and actually doing a painting as like a little promo video for the event, and I painted the Brush Battle logo, speed painted it in about 15 minutes.
That's fun.
So I was pretty happy with that like I still have the ability to speed paint. I haven't done one of these in about 10 years.
I think what the city, or I don't know what was the city in particular, but was it the city that hosted or made use of a similar style event, doing murals? Was that for Art on the Street last year? Or was
yes. I think they did they did panels maybe.
Yeah.
But there also used to be an event called the Brush Off in Guelph, and that was to benefit the Children's Foundation.
Okay.
They haven't done it since 2016, so I lovingly asked their former coordinator if we could rip off their idea, and they were very receptive to that. And the museum in Kitchener also just did their event a few weeks ago, and they're lending us their easels because they're really lovely people.
Oh, that's awesome. It's always nice when Guelph can, and I know this podcast is Growing Guelph, but I frequently see very cool things happening in Kitchener-Waterloo that I'm like, oh, if only the scope of the podcast was kind of bigger, but then like it ends up just becoming like
it's nice
all of Western Ontario.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to keep it focused on Guelph.
It's nice that it's local.
Yeah.
Something for us.
Do you know, we kind of talked about other tool libraries. Do you know, so Hamilton has one, or did maybe?
Hamilton's unfortunately closed around 2017. I know there was just issues with funding, which is ultimately the ongoing issue with any tool library, that unless you have some kind of core funding established or some wealthy benefactor that's keeping you afloat.
Any like millionaires that are listening that want to,
anyone with a foundation.
Yeah, if you're nearing the end of your life and you want to like throw all that money towards something cool,
we will gladly nurture your estate after you've left this plane.
So the Brush Battle,
Yes.
silent auction, what is all that money going towards?
So with the paintings, 40% goes directly to the artist, and the remaining 60% goes to support tool library programs and operations. So our member fees only account for about 15% of our operating costs every year.
Wow. And that's with the fact, like you said, that you're really operating at, like, you said, what, 1.5 full-time or 1.5 staff members?
1.5 staff members.
So there's a lot of, like, if you could quantify all of the hours of skilled time and effort that the volunteers are contributing to this, like, there's a ton of good, like, there's a ton of monetary benefit that people are lending towards this effort.
Exactly.
That it's partly why the membership fee gets you access to so much for so relatively little.
Yeah, so we're hoping to raise around $10,000 to support the tool library for the rest of 2026 for our programming and operating costs. And by programming, I mean things like Seedy Saturday, like the Community Mending Project, like Free Hub, where we're not charging a fee for you to access those programs. They're open to anybody. You don't need a tool library membership to come to Free Hub and work on your bike. You don't need a tool library membership to come to the Community Mending Project and fix your jeans. You don't need one to access seeds. The only thing you need a membership for is to access the tools in the inventory. So when we do a big fundraiser like the Brush Battle, that funding is helping to support all of those programs to make sure that they have the funding that they need to be able to continue to offer those programs and activities.
That's very cool. Do you have an idea of like, are there plans for like what the atmosphere of that brush battle is going to look like? Is there going to be like food?
It's going to be a party.
Like, okay, cool.
It will have a cash bar. There will be some snacks and things available for purchase, as well as like soft drinks. But there's going to be music playing. We're going to have an MC that's really exciting. It's my brother, but he's a cool guy. He hosted our fashion show a few years ago, and people still come up to me and they're like, that guy who sang Frank Sinatra, he was amazing. So
that's really fun.
It's going to be great. We're going to have the Guelph Arts Council space open for their current show. And then that's also where we're going to be displaying all the paintings after each round for people to come in and bid on them.
Oh, cool. I feel like this mall, like if you're ever here on just a quiet weekday and you get the impression of like, oh, it's just like, it has this kind of quaint look to it. And they have this like, there's a look that it's like, it almost looks like an old timey street that's sort of been captured and like frozen in time and to some degree. But it doesn't really convey all the cool stuff that happens here. Mm-hmm. Like there's like wrestling events that the Red Papaya does down the street. There's like it really does reflect some of the fun, alternative cool side of Guelph too here.
Mm-hmm. This space is a lot more alive than people give it credit for. I know earlier we were talking about the gaming space at the Dragon, but there's also like the folks who are at Community of Hearts. They'll be out in the hall selling their chocolates and their Valentines. They bring so much life to this space, and we get to work with them on a lot of programs as well. They've been helping us clean shoes from our reboot program. Yeah. The Arts Council has Fringe happening here. They've had movie nights. They've had other collaborations, their big 50th anniversary celebration. So lots of things are happening. You just have to kind of get to know this space and discover it. It's a shame that we don't have like a social media page for this mall anymore, but we try to be kind of the voice for the mall because we do reach so many people on our socials, and we like to share what's going on here. You had
a fun video posted to your socials recently that was highlighting the fun fact that the Sleeman Center here at the mall was the filming location of Heated Rivalry, which is a big fun thing, and that's kind of fun to share like the filming space for like one of the biggest shows that
there's definitely been an increase in people coming to take selfies in front of the Sleeman Center. But I was like, I have to make a reel about this. And I did my like best influencer voice to the point where people didn't realize it was me doing that voiceover.
That's fun.
That's one of our most successful reels / TikToks that we've done in a while.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that started following us, a couple people that became members just because they saw like a silly little reel that we did. I
mean, that's the joy of social media, right? Is just getting the word out there, and there's a lot of things competing for people's time. So it's nice that you're able to do that. Mm-hmm. And the last event, at least that I'm aware of that you have on your schedule, is also in April 25th. You're hosting the Free to Read book sale from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. And that's in support of Books for Inmates.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. What's that all about?
So we'll be collecting books from early February until pretty much late April, right before the sale. There's going to be a number of locations listed on our website, not just the Tool Library, where you'll be able to drop off books. Books are going to be sold for $2 each for your first 5 books. And then anything after that is only $1 a piece. So it's a great time to stock up your library with some new to you books. And the Books for Inmates program is something that we've worked with for I think 5 or 6 sales now that we've done. And they get reading material into correctional facilities throughout Ontario. So like regional and provincial correctional facilities. They'll get reading materials for like mothers to record and read books to their children, or for people to learn about the legal system so that they can help with their case, so that they can learn a new language, that they can learn a new job skill. So the folks who run Books for Inmates will come in and look at our inventory before it goes up for sale. they'll take everything that they know will be accepted into their programs, because there's a lot of rules around what they can and can't bring into the jails. But and then a portion of the proceeds will also go towards them being able to purchase the types of books that they know that they need.
Oh, nice. Well, that just seems like a unambiguously good project that I can't think of anyone that wouldn't want to support that. Even the people who are the most hardline believers in punishing prisoners. Like, at the end of the day, you want them to be bettering themselves and to be getting that opportunity to read and it's
one small action that we know that we can do to make the correctional system a little bit better.
Well, that's a lot of great events you have coming up, and I think we talked a lot about this space. Is there anything else that you don't think that we didn't touch on or that you wanted to get out there?
I really just want to encourage people to come and visit us. We're open 5 days a week. Our hours are always updated on Google and on our website. We might have something on our shelves that you've been looking for and didn't want to purchase or didn't have the funds to purchase, and you never would have expected that you could borrow it. So we really want to encourage people to come and check us out, and of course to come and attend our programs.
And if you want to volunteer, I can't think of a better, for when you want volunteers, it's a chance to volunteer in a place that's it's a warm, dry, safe environment. You're going to get to sit down most of the time. If you like fixing things or you have any hobbies like that in particular, you can lend your volunteer time just sporadically when they're having a repair cafe or something like that. Or if you have time during the week, I'm sure that the more volunteers you get, the more you'll get to expand some of your hours. And as a member, I selfishly want you to be open on Saturdays and Sundays, because I'm sure other members, that's a key time of I'm off on this day, and that would be great. But I do understand that you're working with the volunteer hours that you have.
For sure. And we have a really great volunteer coordinator who will take you through an onboarding process, make sure it's the right fit for you, and then help you find the position that is most suitable to you. So I'm going to need volunteers for the brush battle. I'm going to need them for Seedy Saturday. John, our director who runs the free to read program, is going to need them ahead of the sale for sorting books. There's going to be 7,000 books to sort through. So whether you're a high school student that's just trying to get their 40 hours, or you're a retiree who's looking to devote 1 or 2 days a week to volunteering, there are a lot of opportunities. We want to make sure that we're meeting your access and support needs if you have those, and that there's tons of different things that you can do, and you don't have to know about tools.
Yeah, it's always fun whenever I've been here, and if I have questions, they don't always have the answers, but they're always eager to help you facilitate the finding out, right? Which is kind of part of the joy of the tool library, is that the exploratory elements of it. But yeah, Steph, thanks so much for joining me in this part 2 of the tool library. I'm always eager to see all the cool stuff you're doing, and maybe in another year or so we'll do a part 3, and we can talk about all the cool things that are happening then. But yeah, thanks so much. If listeners don't already follow, what's the website and social media handles?
So for our website, it's guelphtoolllibrary.org. We're Guelph Tool Library on Facebook, and then on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, we are at G Tool Library.
Cool. If you just search Guelph Tool Library, you'll find all of those things. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Steph.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Growing Guelph. I've been your host, Jordan Sloggett. Be sure to subscribe to us on social media, on your favorite podcast app, and if you have a recommendation for a future guest you'd like me to speak to, you can reach out to me at GrowingGuelph at gmail.com.